Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Ngwana. And good evening to everyone, and welcome again to another session. We are great and happy to have you all this evening. So, once more, you're welcome to day 5 of our training. And we are yet again with EAT Analytics, Data Analysis for Excel. So if you are joining us for your first day, we have been here for the past, this is the second week. We have classes on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, where we do data analysis from each analytic, and we together put our heads together to see how we can analyze data, get to broaden our scope, and broaden our understanding of what Excel is all about. So today we want to continue with our session that we started yesterday, which is data analysis and management in Excel. So feel free to jot down your questions, and by the end of the session, we discuss about the questions. But before we start, I would like us to look at a brief summary of what we did yesterday. We had an assignment which we discussed about. Yes, just one person did and dropped in the group, which I would like us to look at it before we proceed. So if you were not there yesterday, it's an opportunity for you to have revision of what we did. Okay. Uh, all right. Thank you so much, Mr. Chuweo. Don't know if I've pronounced the name well. Uh, this is what I just downloaded from the WhatsApp group you sent. And it's so amazing, excuse me. And it's so amazing to see that you actually had the assignment done. Many have also faced challenges, maybe because the time was short as well, and many others could not submit their assignment. So as I continue, I would just like us to give us an overview. Mr. Chowe, if you are in the call, maybe you just give us an overview of what you did. I can see it here, very vast. Maybe you can explain to us how or what challenges you actually face. I see that you have actually done completely everything we did yesterday. And if you have a word, you can just tell us. If you faced any challenges, just tell us briefly for 1 minute before we continue. Is he in the call? Okay, I see he's not in the call. All right, that's fine. So we can proceed. So yesterday we started looking at data cleaning, and okay, so yesterday we started looking at converting text to data, which we said before we convert our data, we convert our text to data from the first stage, from when we get the data from our data set, maybe from our data collection tool. Maybe we have data from Kobo. We have downloaded the data. You have data collected on maybe Comcare. You have data collected from maybe Google Form. When you bring it or you download it into Excel, you need to ensure that the data is in the form of a readable form into Excel, so that you will not have issues when you start analyzing. We said yesterday that, for example, if you have a raw data, you need to ensure that all the numbers in Excel are recognized as numbers and not as text. So once you do that, you need to go to what? Notepad. Others will not have Notepad, but they'll have iPad on their machines. So you go to Notepad, you copy the text completely, you paste it on your Notepad, you copy it back, and then you take it back to Excel, and then you paste it. It's going to translate automatically any number that was readable as text. and Excel is now going to recognize it as numbers. So much such that when you start your analysis and you want to do some calculations, all of them will be recognized as numbers and not as text. We also went further to see how to clean data to eliminate missing values on our data. And we said when you get or to actually clean data, it starts from the creation of the data collection tool, where we start by actually designing the data collection tool and setting criteria so much such that when the data collectors collect the data, we will not have missing values in our data. So how do we do that? In our data collection tool, we need to include skip logics. We need to also include mandatory criteria for columns or data or variables that we need them to be mandatory. For example, we know, like I made mention yesterday for sex, maybe the age, you must give us an age before our data will continue. If we are collecting data in the far north and in the east region, we have to have that mandatory so that the profilers or the enumerators or the data collectors will not be able to go to the next cells or the next question without actually picking that particular information. So this is this for a review of day one. We went further to actually create some pivot tables like we see here. And we said before we start creating our pivot table, we need to convert the data, our raw data in the form of a table, so much such that when we start our analysis, our pivot table is going to analyze from the table. We also said that when we do this in the form of a table, when we continue with our data collection, maybe our activities have not yet ended. I also made mention that maybe it's a shop that we're selling on a regular basis. When we continue our data collection or our selling per day is going to continue picking here. And at the end of the day, we are just going to refresh our pivot tables and we see the numbers that are picking. We are going to do that today and we see how this is going to change. So this is a recap for our day one. If you actually tried this and you had some challenges, please kindly bring it up now before we continue. So much such that we are all in the same at the same page. If you have any challenges that you face, kindly unmute your mic and then you tell us so that we address it before we continue. Okay. Do I assume that silence means everybody understood, try, and everything was smoothly? So please, if you can get me, can you just leave a thumb up so much such that I know we are getting. Just react in the group, just react in the chat session so that I know you are getting me. Okay, thank you so much, Madam Mercy. Thank you so much. So we'll proceed with our day two of analysis. Um, and today we are actually going to start creating the dashboards, right? We will complete with our day one. This is what Mr. Chewy did. He did exceptionally well. He ended where we ended, and I'm impressed by this. I really appreciate what he did. He actually did some analysis, but if he was in the call, I would have made some corrections from what we did last time. So we see that he actually plotted some charts, but with these charts now, he will need to adjust let me see. Okay, format data analysis view. This is nice. So he needs to arrange the few buttons and then actually remove these few buttons so that it looks exactly like what we had yesterday, as well as this. But overall, he did well. He did the analysis as we did yesterday. So let's go back to our day one sheet and then we'll proceed from there. So day one, let me duplicate this and then we call it day two so that it will not interfere with what we had during day one. So it's, I'm going to say this is day two. Okay, so for our day two, before we proceed with creating our dashboards, we are first of all going to start by doing some VLOOKUP formulas again. Now, for those who do not really get it for the VLOOKUP formula, we said yesterday that the VLOOKUP formula works in such a way that we want to identify specific criteria from a data set and then pick specific values from a particular location within our data set. So if we have this our data set, let's assume that, okay, yeah, we did the first VLOOKUP and we said that we wanted to identify a particular age group for which this particular age will fall within. So wanted to break this down so much so that when we start our analysis, we are going to analyze by particular age groups and not by the ages. This is going to make our pivot tables shorter and very clean. So we'll proceed to the next calculation and um, we might want to use this as well. For the reduced coping strategy index, right? We said yesterday that those who are practicing negative coping strategies, like sending their children to live in maybe family members because they don't have what they can eat in their own household. We also said some persons practice prostitution in order to have a source of income because they cannot take care of their basic needs. Some other persons reduce the quantity of food they eat a day such that their children can eat, and so on and so forth. So when we have this, we want to actually see that in these households, let me see, there's another sheet. Okay. So we want to actually see that in this household, any household that has from zero, a reduced coping strategy of 0 to 3, we say that this person has a low negative coping strategy. If you have a reduced coping strategy index of 4 to 18, you have a medium coping strategy. If your reduced coping strategy score is greater than 19, we'll say that you have high negative coping strategy. It means that you practice a lot of negative coping strategies in order for you to survive in your household. So like we did yesterday in setting the VLOOKUP formulas, we are going to use this to actually identify if someone is between these values, these ranges, means that they are falling within this actual range. It means that if your household is practicing low negative coping strategy, it will be from 0 to 3, a score of 0 to 3. Medium coping strategy will be from 14 to 18, and high negative coping strategy will be from 19 and above. Like we said yesterday, we said we are using the lower class boundaries of each group. So the lower class boundary of 0 to 3 is 0. The lower class boundary of 4 to 18 is 4. And the lower class boundary of 19 and above is 19. So it's 19 and not 19 plus. So let's try to insert the VLOOKUP formula and see what's going to give us day two. So if I come here, we need to first of all put this in a table format, right? This is what we discussed yesterday. The first row, you highlight it, you press Ctrl T. Once you are there, you have the absolute ranges of the area where you want to do it. You see it's highlighted. And we don't have headers on this our table that we want to create. So I'll highlight it and then I take OK. Once that is done, it is transformed into a table. I want to change the color or the design of the table. Once that is done, you see here, you get the name of the table. This is table 7 up here, highlighted. So this is the name of this table. This other one is table 2. So I know that this one is table 7. I come back to my calculations, then I insert the formula. I'll say equals to, like we said yesterday, VLOOKUP. Now they're asking for the lookup value. What's the lookup value? We said yesterday that the lookup value is the value that you want to look for within the table. Put your comma sign, the table array. The table array is what we just created. I'll highlight it. You take comma, which column index? The column index now is the column in which you want to return on your table, which is, in our case, is 2. You close the parenthesis, and then you hit the enter key. Boom. Wow, this is amazing, right? So one other thing we can make mention of is the fact that yesterday we were doing our calculations. We needed to come to the bottom right of uh, the cell that is highlighted, and then once this is turned into this bold cross, we double click, and then it's going to pick it down completely. But once you have converted all your data to a table, once you do a calculation, Excel automatically understands that this is what you want to apply in all the other cells right now. And it picks it automatically, and you don't need to come again to autofill for all of these ones. So that has been done already. So I'll call this the reduce coping strategy. Reduce coping strategy. Reduce coping strategy index. Right. Then we come this way, we'll do the same thing at the end. Now this one, which criteria are we going to use? We are going to use this other criteria. So for somebody to say, let me come back here. At this level, we're looking at the household hunger scale or the food consumption score, right? The level of consumption of the different food groups. We have different food groups here. We have the cereal or the tuber group, which is mostly roots, like cassava, plantain, rice, and maybe maize. We have the vegetable groups. We have groups for fruits. We have pause. Pause is mostly like beans, peas, egusi, and all other these grains that we have. Then we also have meat. We have also milk. We have oil, consumption of oil, and we have sugar, and finally we have condiments. Condiment is Maggi and salt that you use in preparing your food. So we want to see exactly in the past 7 days what these people actually consume in each household. Let's say this is one household. We want to see what they consumed in the past 7 days. It means that in all the 7 days of the week that these people were interviewed, they ate food, either plantain or yam for 7 days. These people, this same household, right, ate vegetable 5 times. Maybe they prepared their plantain with huckleberry and for 5 days, and then maybe 2 other days they ate something else, maybe plantain and maybe uh, okra soup or whatsoever. So they ate fruits just for 2 days. Maybe they ate beans. Maybe this day they ate beans and plantain. 2 days. This other day they ate meat. Maybe they prepared their food now. These 7 days that they ate this yam and the other stuffs, yam plantains. They were fortunate to prepare it with meat for 3 days or 3 times. This one they said they have not seen milk at all, so they don't drink tea and all the others. So all the 7 days that they prepared their food, they use oil to prepare the food, as well as they maybe drank tea just twice, or maybe soak gari with sugar or honey twice. And then the 7 days that they actually prepare their food, they actually use condiments like salt and Maggi to prepare their food. So when we do that, we calculate this overall, we see that overall, this house will have a high food consumption score if they have 35. We look at another household like this one, their food consumption score is very low at 16. But when we analyze that, we want to see exactly um, the household that had a poor food consumption score as defined by our criteria. We say those who have from 0 to 20, that is consumption of the different classes of food for the amount of time that they consume. So if we say it is from 0 to 20, it's going to return poor food consumption score. Those who consume many other type of classes of food is going to take us from 21 to 34. We'll term it as borderline. And those who consume other types of food or all the groups of food who their score is above 30 and above, we'll say they have an acceptable food consumption score, meaning this household have a lot of resources. That's why they can consume many food groups at a time. So what do I need to do? I already made mention that the first criteria we need to look at when we are doing our VLOOKUPs, we need to convert this to a table. And once that is converted to a table, we need to bring the lower class boundary of this particular group. You see here we have 0 to 20, the lower class boundary is 0. The lower class boundary of 21 to 34 is 21. And the lower class boundary of 35 and above is 35. So what next do we need to do? We need to convert this to a table as we have done with the others, right? So I will still use my control word, my control plus T like we did yesterday, right? So I'll still use this. Once I use that, I'm able to convert this to a table on my keyboard. Now, all these, we don't need to have headers because there's no header on our table that we want to create. So I will just leave. I will not check the box. I'll leave it empty. Then I run it. And now I have this as a table. Remember, I said yesterday that we put this in the form of a table because we want to make it an absolute referencing for our data set. It means that when I calculate, it's going to pick automatically for all of this. But if I don't put it in the form of a table, by the time I'm tracking this down, it is also going to be dragging it down here. And when it gets to this level, it is going to identify that there is no group here. So it's not going to pick, it's going to tell me that we have an error at this level. Okay, if we all understand this, and then we will need to proceed. So we need to look at the food consumption score. So notice something. Once I do my input here, the table automatically shifts to the right and picks this. This is the beauty about inputting data in tables, right? So it has shifted to the right. It means that anytime I refresh my pivot table, I'm able to see this food consumption score that I've inputted here, and I'll be able to do my calculations with it. So to put the formula, I'll tell it that, okay, VLOOKUP, like we have been talking about, the lookup value, this, it tells me that I should put a comma, put a comma, table array. Where is the table located? We go back to our sheet and we're able to highlight the table for which, the range in which we want to consider for our analysis or for our formula. So we see here is defining it that is table 8. I'll say, okay, comma. What is the index number that we are looking for? The index number is where we want to return, right? So we say we are in column 2 and I want it to show return the values that are in column 2. So I'll take 2 and I said, okay, bracket close. What do you need to do next? You hit the enter key. Once you hit the enter key, it's going to show us all of this. So this household is having an accepted food consumption score. And this can be justified by the high level of consumption of food groups by this particular household. And this one is having a poor food consumption score, meaning this is a very vulnerable household, same like this one, and this one. And when you see that we set from 21, you should take it to borderline, meaning at least these persons have some sort of food in their households or are consuming some sort of various food groups within the households. So that is what we want to do. And with this, we can comfortably insert our pivot tables, and then we continue with our analysis. So I'm going to come back. I want to show you how to refresh so that it picks automatically all of these I've added. Yesterday, we did not have this. And yesterday, we did not have this other calculation or formula that we have inputted here. So when I continue my analysis, see what happens. Now, if I come and open this pivot fee here and I look for food consumption score, I will not see it, right? We are seeing only the total food consumption score, but we're not seeing the food consumption score that we calculated. So what do I need to do? I need to come to my data field. At the data field now, you are going to see this refresh key here. What happens? Considering that data was entered, maybe say, let's say we have 34 participants, and then I came today, I realized that there was an entry, right? There was an entry. Maybe the data collectors were not done with work. And then I started my analysis and I realized that they have done some entries in my absence or without my knowledge. So what do they do? Maybe they did 3 entries, right? I just need to copy this. And then maybe I said they did entries. Yeah. This is not picking. Okay. Let me highlight this and then I'll copy it. I'll highlight this 3. I'll copy it down to assume that they added data in our data set. So what happens is when I click on this, you see that it's picking, the table is picking it automatically. The table identifies it as part of the data that was collected, right? So I'll come back now to my analysis. Here we cannot see it. We are still at total number of participants, 34. But once I refresh, you are going to see the magic that Excel will do. So on the data tab, like I said, if you are at the home tab, you need to click on the data tab, refresh all. You click on refresh all now. Let's see. This one is still at 34, right? It means that where my cursor was pointed is just refresh only that particular pivot. Let me see again. Okay, it's not picking. So if it is not picking, you need to come back to the data
Mr.
set, right?
Clinton, you may need to save the data first.
Yes, you need to come back to the data set and then maybe you refresh it and then you save the data, like Mr. Eduna rightly said. Wow. So let me go back to the analysis and let's see. Let me refresh this one. Not picking. Let me go back. Let's just have
Yeah,
source.
like Control S. Let's save it first.
Yes, let's see. I want to be sure that it's picking all. I click and then we refresh. Still not picking, but let me run another pivot. Let's see. Okay, this is probably because the pivot was connected to this other sheet, right? This sheet that we duplicated. Let me run automatically another pivot using this sheet is going to pick it. We did the calculation in another sheet that we duplicated. That's why it's not picking. So let me run it with this recommended pivot. Do this, and then we say we want to see the total number of participants like we did yesterday, right? So you see, now it's at 37, right? So we're using the wrong data set. So I need to hide this for day one so that we run our analysis with the 2 and 2 only. So let me just quickly do what we did yesterday so that we have the same data that we had and then we can run, we can create a dashboard, one dashboard for today and we go. So let me just run the pivot tables. In case you have any question, we'll look at it at the end. Let me take region. Those in the east region and the far north. I'll run again another pivot. I want to see the food consumption score, right? You see now we are having the food consumption score after I refresh now. This is what I'm looking for. So I might want to bring the food consumption score to see the poor houses, percentage of houses that are in the poor group. We see that we have just one household with the poor food consumption score group. We had 19 households with the borderline food consumption score and 17 household. Sorry, 19%, 19 of them had a borderline food consumption score, and 17 had a poor food consumption score. So, but this is not what I want to see. I want to see it in percentages. So I'll need to go, like we said yesterday, I right click. You right click on the pivot table, right? Once you right click, we come to all of this. We looked at this yesterday. You come to show value as. I want to see them as percentages of column totals. So I'm going to take this. Now, yesterday we said when the values are displayed like this, we need to either reduce the total number of decimal places depending on how your organization want to report. Maybe your organization want to report it in one decimal places. In one decimal place, you need to reduce this. But to me, I always like it to be chronological like this. And once it's like this, I also want it to look in order so that I see the highest from the highest to the lowest. So what do I need to do? I need to bring my cursor to where the numbers are, where the values are, and then I need to come to the filter, home tab, filter button like we said yesterday, and I'll filter from maybe the largest to the smallest. So much such that when I start my reporting, if I see the first value up, I know that it is the highest value, right? I also want to see the percentage of participants from the East region, percentage of participants from the Far North region. We do the same here, percentages. We show value as percentage of column total. Good. So I want everything in this column to always appear as percentage. So I'll just highlight the entire column. And then I say, okay, everything in this column should always appear as percentage with no decimal place. So it's going to give me this. Now I want to include maybe another pivot table to show me the reduced coping strategy index, right? This one we calculate the reduced coping strategy index, this one down. So I need to just remove this and then I bring this here. It's going to tell me that there is none of the household that had a medium coping strategy index. All of them had either a high coping strategy, a high negative coping strategy index, or a low negative coping strategy index as seen. So we had 89% of the household practicing low negative coping strategy and just 11% practicing high negative coping strategy, which is good. So what next do we need to do? With this now, we can already start creating our dashboards, right? The different type of activities. So now I want to see these different type of activities only at the baseline. So what do I need to do? I need to come here. I said, okay, since we cannot analyze the baseline and the end line at once, there are two different reports, right? We said the baseline is when you are starting the activity and you want to identify um, ground value so that you might be able to tell or judge actually if your activity is succeeding. You might set the base for you to do your monitoring. When you do monitoring or you want to do evaluation, you want to tell programs that, okay, or you want to tell the team that, okay, this is where we started and this is where we are now. Have we improved or there have not been an improvement, right? So when you do the baseline, you understand exactly what was there before and how your activity or how your sales is going to impact that particular activity. So if we do that, we take type of activity, we can put in the filter. This one is overlapping the other one. Okay, let's leave it at this level and then we do a dashboard with this. So I'll just call this, do I have any other one called analysis? Okay, so I'll just call this analysis, right? I'll just call this analysis and then I can use it to do my dashboard. Analysis, good. So once I want to create my dashboard, the first thing I want to do is maybe to insert charts like we did yesterday. So let me insert a chart for this. Maybe I want to see the total number of food groups as in percentages like all the others. I'll bring this percentage of column total like what Friday said. Maybe that was too fast. We right click, show value as percentages of column total, right? We say, okay, all of this also should be in percentages. I'll choose this. Now I need to insert my chart. So what do I do? Now, some persons, when they want to insert their charts, they always do this, right? To pick the cell value or the cell range here, pick this particular activity or the particular cells and bring to this other level before they include the chart, right? You might also want to bring this down. Let me see whether this works. Yes, it works. So some persons always do this. But when you are creating, then they use this to create their chart, to insert a chart. See, this is nice. It does not have the few values that we had in the other charts that we have to come over here to remove.